The global economy is expected to rebound in 2021 after taking a heavy blow from the pandemic. A new report by the UN Conference on Trade and Development says it expects growth to accelerate as countries get a better handle on the health crisis. But it warns global inequality remains a threat to the pace of the world's recovery. Let's get more on this now with Jeronim Capaldo, who joins us from Geneva. He's an Economics Affairs Officer at the Globalisation and Development Strategies Division of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Welcome to the program, Jeronim. Now, Unctad is the latest international body to raise its growth forecast for the world economy in 2021. Tell us more about why you feel a bit more optimistic about growth prospects for the world economy.
Truly, we feel a little less pessimistic, and the reason is that there are very adverse events that we are aware can happen, but have not happened, fortunately. And there are mainly three. One of them is a full-fledged financial crisis. We know that capital flight from developing countries and emerging markets has happened, but it's been short-lived. And luckily, this has not triggered the financial turmoil that it could have triggered. But we're worried that it might happen because there's no financial safety net to stem it or prevent it. The other event is vaccinations that we came on earlier than expected and are ongoing and unfortunately not going as fast as everybody would like them to, but they are happening. And the third element is there's a return to pre-COVID or pre-pandemic restrictive policies that we see coming, but that has not happened yet as fast as some feared, and so this has allowed for some positive news. And of course, then there is the general context of stimulus that has been applied in most advanced countries for sure.
Now, your latest report also forecasts that the global economy will be more than $10 trillion worse off this year compared to what it would have been had the pandemic not have happened. Can you tell us which countries are expected to bear the brunt of these losses?
Well, in absolute terms, 54% of this shortfall is borne by three countries, and that's the United States, the European, not three countries, three economies, the United States, the European Union, and China. But in relative terms, the situation is slightly different. And the country that in percentage terms is going to have the largest shortfall is India. Then we have the United Kingdom, Mexico, France, and Italy. So the top five countries in terms of shortfall this top five list contains two large emerging markets who are obviously not as well placed as advanced economies to deal with this situation, but also the United Kingdom, France, and Italy. And out of this, it's only the United Kingdom that has the largest policy space because it also enjoys full monetary sovereignty, whereas the others have plenty of limitations from this respect.
Now, as you mentioned, we've seen wealthier countries unleash trillions of dollars worth of stimulus to combat the economic effects of this pandemic. Now, that's a luxury that poorer nations just simply haven't been able to do. What needs to be done in order to help these less advanced economies and emerging economies recover from the pandemic?
Well, several changes in the rules of global governance, as we might say, are necessary and actually urgent. And they invest several areas of global governance, but the most urgent ones have to do with trade, because the rules of the international trading system, for example, the rules that emphasize intellectual property rights and the restrictions that come with that, we've seen that in the context of vaccine production that have been in the way of proper recovery policy in developing countries. But we have, for example, all the limitations that have to do with policy space whenever countries sign bilateral, or plurilateral trade agreements, and we have limitations that have to do with the financial governance. Mainly, fundamentally, with the fact that there is no agreed mechanism to work out a sovereign debt crisis. And so to prevent that situation from happening is, of course, a priority. Also, not just because the consequences of a big sovereign debt crisis are tremendously heavy for each government, but also because the approaching of a situation of default creates tremendous tensions and aggravates the situation quickly.
Okay. Now, while you've described 2020 as an annus horribilis, a horrible year, you've also said that the situation could have been worse. Explain to us what did help to stem the economic damage that really prevented things from getting worse?
Well, there was some stimulus that was applied. Actually, it was relevant stimulus, not as big as it's perhaps presented, but it was substantial stimulus. And then there was some monetary coordination across the world, mainly between the leading central banks. This excluded most developing countries, but it did involve the largest economies, and so that allowed for the payment system and for the exchange rate, well, for the core of the exchange rate systems to function, and there was some little coordination within regional areas, but not nearly enough. But most importantly, there was no adverse financial event that could have really precipitated a larger crisis.
Okay, Jeronim Capaldo from the UN Conference on Trade and Development. Thank you once again for joining us on the program.